Hello there Pixies, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I know it has been a very long time since I filmed any kind of videos for this channel, and my goodness, you do not know how happy I am to be back. If you don't know who I am Rihanna, and this channel is about Harry Potter. But right now it's not, because I have plans for this year. Of course we're going to keep doing the Harry Potter content, but I have an announcement that you probably guessed from the title of this video, and I'm just really excited to show you guys. I know some people on Twitter who do follow me on Twitter, they already know what's going on here, and if you follow my Pensive Pixie blog, which you can check out the details in the description, then you know about it too. But let's just get to it because I don't want to take too long on this. This is a novel, my first ever novel that I've ever written. Look at it, it's beautiful. I'm not just doing this as a vanity thing to go, look, I made a novel. Honestly, I want to document the process on this channel. I didn't document the process of actually writing the first draft on the channel because I was busy writing it, and this channel was on hiatus, so, you know, wasn't time to do that. But this has been three-ish, a bit more than three, a bit less than 3 months work, and I will just explain how I started it, my process for writing it, and what we're going to do next. And if you want to watch these writing vlog type videos, then you're welcome to. If you just want to watch the Harry Potter videos, that's totally fine too. This is mostly just because I feel like it will help a lot of people who want to write books. I know that a lot of people who like Harry Potter tend to like writing, and would probably be the type of people who like to write a novel. So I figured, let me just show you my process, because I never thought I'd do it, ever. So a little bit of context before I start talking about the process of writing this. I've written all my life since I was a little girl. I remember the first thing I ever properly wrote was probably when I was like 6 years old, and it was a small little story with illustrations of a retelling of Alice in Wonderland. So there was Through the Rabbit Hole and all that, and that was really fun. I drew the pictures for it. It wasn't probably very good, but it was the first thing I remember writing. And then I would write little fan fictions and original stories pretty much all through my life. I don't know if anyone ever watched Mona the Vampire, but if you did, yeah, you'd know what it is. I used to write Mona the Vampire fan fictions, I'd write Peter Pan fan fictions, Narnia fan fictions, Tarzan fan fictions, anything, Merlin, but I'd say I probably properly started writing, that was really hard to say, in my teens, when I would write, when I was like 17, I put up my own very first proper, I'd say it was a novella or a short story. It was only like 29,000 words, and that was my first original that I showed to anyone really outside of family and friends, and that was on Wattpad. It was called When It Rained, and it's not there anymore. I have my account on Wattpad still, but I took When It Rained down from there, and I'm probably gonna rework it maybe. I have it as a file anyway, and that was my first work that I really showed anyone that was original, and it was kind of like a contemporary teen romance story. And then I would write Harry Potter fan fictions as well, which you can actually have a look at those on this channel, because I read through my fan fictions, the raw first drafts of those, and give my comments on how I've changed as a writer. So if you want to check out the playlist, it will be up here, up there, whichever side it's on. I don't know which side the cards go on, but that's there too. So that's kind of a shortened version of how I started writing. I'd always wanted to write a novel. If you look back on some of my old videos, I even talk about wanting to write a novel and document the process on this channel. But I honestly never thought I'd do it, ever, because I've tried many times to write novels and they always failed. I always got bored, or I didn't plan enough, because I'm not much of a planner in general. But look, here it is. Here's proof that if you work hard, you really stick at it, and you have faith in it, and you really believe in it, it can happen. So I got the idea for this story, which I'm just gonna explain a little bit about the story first. The story is, at the moment, a fantasy. Of course, it will stay a fantasy most likely. It's a fantasy, it's kind of like, I'm not going to say who it's like, but it's a fantasy story, partly in the contemporary world and partly in another world. So it follows our main character, whose name I won't say, but it's two main characters, two main protagonists. They're sisters, and how much can I say? I'm not going to say more than that. Two protagonists, they're sisters, and it's set in a fantasy world. So back to what I was saying. So I got the idea for this story back in 2018. I was on a trip to London, and if I'm looking down, it's because I got my notes, because I have to remember all this. But I was on a trip to London to my grandmother's house, and that's where I got the idea. Whilst I was in London at my grandmother's house, I had this idea for a story, and I reacted very physically to it. I was like, oh, you know that rush you get when you know it's a good idea and you know that this could be potentially big, like in your head. I'm not saying it's going to be like a world-changing idea, but for me it's a big idea, and it was an idea that I knew it was bigger than me, like my ability at that time. I knew it was bigger than my ability at that time, so I kind of tried my best to plan it out, which is strange for me because I don't plan. So I planned out all the events that I think would happen in this story over the space of 2 days. And then, yeah, I think I left it after that. Yeah, so I left the story alone. I didn't really work on the characters much. I did work on characters a bit on the like coach ride home from London. But then for a few months, I just left it because I had other story ideas to do. And also, around that time was when I'd started Pixie Potterhead, this channel. So writing kind of took a very back seat for a good 2 years. Yeah, I didn't really write much in the time that I was doing this channel. So yeah, I kind of forgot about it, to be perfectly honest. And then the next time I came back to it was last year, 2020. It was early 2020 that I came back to this story, and it just popped back into my memory because I was working on something else and I found the file that I had for this story. So yeah, I wasn't that interested in rekindling this story. I had written down like the inciting incident for one of the scenes. Well, the inciting incident scene, I'd written that down partly just because I felt like it that was like months back. So I looked at it, I was like, I don't know. I remember this story idea, but do I want to do it? Not really. And also lockdown happened and all that stuff. Existential crises, as everybody knows, they happen in times like that. So I wasn't really in the frame of mind to write other than my journaling. That was all I really did with writing up until in August. So in August, beginning of August, I'd started writing another story and was like, yeah, this is the one. I want to get back into writing. I want to write this. But then I realised as I was starting to write it that I didn't want to, and I came back to Project S and began plotting scene by scene, which is something, again, that I didn't know I could do. And I planned out the entire thing, scene by scene, and then early September I started writing. So now this is the writing process I'm going to talk about. September the 8th was the day I started writing this story, and from the moment I'd planned it all out, I felt completely unqualified to write it. And I think this is common amongst writers, or anything you care about, like you really care about, it tends to be something you doubt. So the one thing you're best at is the one thing that you care about the most is the one thing you doubt that you can do. And this is definitely the case of this. I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do this. Like, this story is bigger than me. It's too big. I've never written anything like it. I don't know how to write that well. I was just a mess. but I plodded on anyway and tried my best to write. And for the first few scenes, for the first few chapters of the first act, it was fine because I'd had that part of the story in my head for a long time. And I also knew the ending of the story way at the start. From the start, I knew what the end was going to be. So that was quite comforting for me. The first act was fine. And it came to 25,000 words, and that was when I was stumped and I started wanting to give up. Life was very hard as well because, you know, just life got in the way. I've had a few family members who have been ill. You know, very close family members were in hospital. It was an emotional time, and it seemed like everything started everything all just piled up when I was writing this story. So it took a lot of willpower to get through some days. And I didn't write every day. I didn't. But I wrote most days, and I would actually put a clip of my word count tracker thing that I did on like Excel. I tracked my words every single day, and that was really helpful to me because even if I wrote like 10 words in one day, because sometimes I didn't write at all, but if I wrote 10 words, it added to the whole thing, and it just was so encouraging. But yeah, I got to the 25,000 words mark, which was like maybe a little bit into chapter 7, which is like Act 2, and Act 2 is hard. Like, the middle of a story is so difficult to write because there's a lot of stuff and a lot more characters turn up and the plot thickens, and I've only ever really got to the middle of a story in like, okay, that's not true. I was gonna say I've never really gotten to the middle of a story, but I've written a lot of stories, just not novels. Shorter stories are easier because they tend to have one basic plot and not a lot of subplots because there's less characters. But this thing here, it was hard because I wanted to have subplots, but I didn't know what I wanted them to be yet. And all these characters just popped up out of nowhere that I didn't know they were going to exist. It was very hard to get past 25,000 words, but I did. By the grace of God. Honestly, there's no other way of explaining it other than hard work and racking your brains. A lot of racking your brains and hoping that something good comes up. This is a really messy draft. I'd say it's a rough draft, not even a first draft, because sometimes I didn't write in order, and I skipped scenes. I didn't skip entire scenes, but sometimes I'd be writing a scene and I'd get to a point in it and I'd just put a placeholder like, describe this more, because I didn't know what the description is yet. Or I'd be like, this basically happens here, do it next time in the next draft, because I wanted to keep the momentum up, because I knew that if I stopped and stalled, it'd be done. I'd never have finished it. So I needed to rush through. I did what they call a fast draft, but it was quite a fleshed out fast draft. Like, I'd say most of the story is there. I don't need to add too much, I suppose, as I'm going through. But yeah, this is like a rough draft for sure. A lot of cool things kind of happened whilst I was writing it. As I said, the plot thickened, more characters appeared, and the story at the start didn't have a magical country in it. I'm not talking too much about it, but I didn't expect to build an actual world, like another world that's completely separate to our world. I didn't expect that to happen, so a lot of cool things came out of the process of writing this story, and I started to discover it for myself, because I would say I am a discovery writer, which means I don't plan too much. I plan the big picture. I'm a very big picture person, but I don't like to do it just with no plan at all. So I usually have a character. I usually see characters first and I'm like, okay, this character, I want to follow what they do, and then I figure out what they do from there. But yeah, I didn't expect to build a world. I didn't. And honestly, it's really fun. That's probably one of the most fun things, but it's also really complicated to do world building in a fantasy because, well, you're building an entire world. Writing wasn't always exciting. In fact, most of the time writing is not exciting at all. It's just sitting there and writing whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be good. But then there were days or hours where it felt like meeting the love of your life for the first time. So exhilarating when you get in the zone and you're writing something and you're like, this is so raw and so good, I want to keep it forever and ever. That's the best part of writing. And when you really get attached to a character whilst you're writing them and you're like, oh, this character has so much chemistry with this other character that I thought that she was going to have like chemistry with this guy, but no, she likes this guy, and that's the best part of writing for me. Yeah. Yeah, there's romance in this story, but isn't there always? Sometimes it got to the point where I wanted to stop, but I would watch other authors, Authortubers they call them on YouTube. I would watch them talking about their process, and that really helped me get through my process. One person that I watched was, her name's Joni White, I think, and her channel's called Love Qualified. It's a Christian, she's a Christian YouTuber, but she also talks about how her own writing process, because she started writing a novel for the first time and she's been documenting it, and because we're both in a similar place, I was like, okay, let me write this down, like let me seek encouragement from her and other YouTubers like Shaylin Wrights and Kate Kavanagh and, oh my gosh, Kahilah Harry, I hope that's how I say her name, Kahilah Harry. Just loads of people. I've always watched Authortubers actually, even before I decided I was going to write this, so I already knew who to go to for some encouragement. Oh, and Heart Breathings, that's a good channel if you like writers stuff. But yeah, I wanted to give up a lot, and it's very lonely because you can't get any feedback or affirmation from anyone. You kind of have to get it for yourself. You have to fuel your own enthusiasm and keep it going and keep the endurance and faith going in what you're writing, because most of the time writers aren't showing their work to other people. At least I wouldn't, not the first time round, with this anyway. I did with Wattpad when I was younger and I was a teenager and I was like, I just want everyone to see my work. But now I knew this was serious, I needed to just get it all down and then maybe show people. And on this channel I may reveal things about the story and maybe read passages, but it's still pretty personal and private at the moment. And because it's so lonely just sitting in a room and writing, you need the outside encouragement sometimes. But yeah, so my goal was to reach 50,000 words by January the 8th this year. And I didn't think I could do it, obviously, but I managed to reach 50,000 by the 2nd of December. So that's like a whole month and a bit early. And I was like, what? I reached 50,000? Oh my gosh. It was a monumentous moment, and I just then realised, hey, I can do this now. I can actually do this. And that was probably like near the end of Act 2, so then I had to write the end of Act 2 and the rest of Act 3, so that took me up until the 1st of January this year. So I finished the book on the 1st of January this year, and then I went back to the book. I wanted to start rereading straight away. I knew that was a bad idea, but I couldn't wait for like a month, because people say wait for a month or wait for 2 months or wait for as long as you can and then come back to it with a fresh mind. No, I can't do that. I haven't the patience. So I had this binded copy made on lulu.com, which is like a book printing, independent publishing, self-publishing platform. I got it done there. This is my first draft, and I read through it from the 12th of January when it came through the post. I just started my reread. I didn't make notes on my first reread, but now I'm making notes on my second reread, and it's really boring. Like, writing these notes and finding plot holes and character inconsistencies, it's not my favourite thing, because it's very detail oriented, but once that's done I can start the second draft. And I just want to let everyone know that if you're thinking of writing a book, do it. And writing is just writing, but it's not always just writing. Sometimes writing is, you know, sitting and daydreaming on a bus, or talking to someone else about their life experiences, or just a casual conversation. Writing isn't always about words being written. It's very much about the experiences you have and them coming up in your subconscious to your conscious mind while you're writing. And you'll find that you don't even know it's happening. Write anywhere if you can. Don't make the excuse of you have to be in a specific place at a specific time to write, because life happens and you have to be flexible. So if you can, learn to write wherever you've got space and time. I would write in my breaks at work. I would write on the bus to work. I would write when I got home from work, and just wherever I could when I had a space and time to do it. I wrote on my phone, I wrote on my laptop, I wrote on my tablet, wherever I was, just writing. Sometimes I'd handwrite and then type it in when I felt the inspiration dying from doing it so much on a digital tablet type thing. I'd be like, okay, today I'm gonna write it by hand and then type it up. And that helped sometimes too. So you have to be creative with how you're going to do it, because it's a beast, I'm telling you. So this is 64,000, it's pretty much almost 65,000 words. I wanted it to be 70,000, but you know, that didn't happen. Next time round it might get bigger, it might get smaller, but I would love to document the process on this channel. And if you want to watch it, that's fine. If you don't want to watch it, that's also fine. I'm kind of just doing it because this is just special to me. This story is very, very special to me. And it means a lot that I finally wrote it. And I want everyone who wants that experience to have it, because it's a really beautiful experience holding your book. Your book. And look at all these pages. They're all my words. And I want you guys to have that joy too when you finish your work in progress, or find that story idea that you run with to the end. That's it for this video. I will be writing. I'll be talking more about this project whenever I can on this channel. But if you're here for the Pixie Potterhead Harry Potter stuff, that's totally cool too, because that is the main thing here. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like it, and I will see you guys next time. Sorry for the rambling. Goodbye.